is Coffee with Karina. And here's your host, Karina Michelle.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for sending me this book.
Oh, of course.
And I was so excited when I got it because you put my face message in it. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I'm glad you can read it.
So
my handwriting is horrible.
No, I love it. And it's just like, it's called Relentless Solution Focus, I should say, is the book by Dr. Reed and Jason Selk. So I love it. It's perfect for me. So anyway, so I read it then, I think it was probably like a year and a half ago. And it was weird because when I started reading it this week, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I need. I felt like I was seeing different things from things that are coming up lately. And so I'm actually going to go through it again. And I was even digging into like your YouTube stuff too. I'm like, I'm hooked right now.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway,
that's so sweet.
Yeah. So it's absolute gold. And I'm just excited to hear your journey. Like, how did you end up at this point as a coach and doing all this cool stuff?
So my journey was a little bit interesting. So I was also a professional dancer up until I retired 3 years ago. But I was always through school, a very perfectionist, high achiever, which I'm finding that a lot of people, especially a lot of women, really resonate with that, like, overachiever, A+ student, always like seeking the extra credit and the gold star. And high stress and anxiety often comes along with that high achievement. And we kind of just accept it as, well, that's just part of being a high achiever. Right. And so I that was me growing up. And so I was always, really into academics, but also really into dancing. So I kind of lived these two lives all through school. I just kind of kept going with the dancing. And, I graduated college and started pursuing graduate school for psychology. But then also some opportunities came about. I live in St. Louis. A new professional company, contemporary dance company, was starting. And so I kind of fell into that, which turned into like a 13-year plus long professional dancing career. And in the meantime, I was in school and working on my doctorate in experimental psychology, and applying all of these tools and fundamentals that I was learning through my colleague, Dr. Jason Selk, the co-author on the book, and in school, applying it to my own life and my own dancing career, but also coaching others on it. And so I, over the years, I used to be that I would start every day with ballet class. We would start ballet class at like 9:30. Then we would go into a full day of rehearsals, and I would be done with dancing around like 3. I would rush home, throw on my blazer and my hoop earrings, and sit down and start coaching clients. And so, I had a couple kids within that trajectory. And I retired from dancing about 3 years ago to be able to do this full time. But it ended up being a really, a unique situation in that I kind of was living this double life, but also really valuable because I was really able to experience this stuff from all angles. I do work with a lot of professional and Olympic athletes. I work with a lot of younger ones too. I work with a lot of business professionals. It's funny, you were saying that the second time you've gone through the book, you're kind of picking up on totally different things, which is awesome. A lot of my professional athletes, when they are really kind of in the height of their competition season, so whether it be like, it's an Olympic qualifying year for a lot of athletes right now. And those high pressure times when it's so easy to be focused on results, a lot of times they will just take the Relentless Solution Focus book and they just read a page a day. Like, just get a page a day to just keep it in your brain, to keep that part of your brain activated.
That's interesting, because I was going through, and it's funny because you can tell when I really like a book. I'll show you that happens. I start highlighting.
Love it.
I have my my highlighting part. Like this part is like performing isn't limited to being on stage. I love this part, by the way. It's, it doesn't have to be in hundreds or thousands of
Yes.
people. We all perform constantly throughout the day.
Yes.
Like there were little things that were just really sticking with me. I was like, wow. And you're right. There's so much information condensed in here that's what I was doing. I was reading a few pages and I was like sitting and kind of taking it all.
Yeah. Yes. That's awesome. Well, and because you are a performer, right? An actress but also we perform all throughout our lives, watching our kids play soccer, that's a performance when we can feel our heart rate starting to go or, having a difficult conversation or, just trying to be present with our families when we get home after a long day, we're performing all day long.
Yeah.
And for most of us, especially, high achievers, we're just used to operating up here where, our stress and anxiety is high. We expect a lot of ourselves.
Yeah.
And, I know me growing up, and I don't know if you relate to this, but the goal was kind of just to do as much as I can and be as good as I can and do as much more as I could without really a very clear goal. The goal was to do more and to be better.
Yeah. No, I do. I relate to a lot of the things that you say, actually, because growing up, I had all these things I wanted to do, but I also felt that same anxiety because I read in there how it's like you would expect the worst. And it's not necessarily that, but it's like this could go wrong. So I'm going to prepare for that, right? And I'm going to worry about it. And I remember that, like, especially when I started modeling, because modeling a lot like dance, you think you have to be perfect, right? You need to be perfect. You can't mess up. Well, now I know it's sometimes the imperfections that make you more interesting or whatever. But
you're so right.
You know what I mean?
You're so right. Yes.
Pressure was just it was a lot. And I did that for 12 years. So I totally related to that. But I think with time, I've kind of, I don't know if it's like you've done it so many times or you've done different things. It's like, well, this didn't actually happen. So
you kind of gain that experience that, oh, wait, all these other things that I used to worry about.
Yeah.
Well, and what's so interesting is that, you're very smart, right? Like most of the people that, I'd probably venture to say all of the people that work with me. And if you're picking up a personal development book to read, you obviously care about your improvement. You care about your success.
Right.
Pretty smart, pretty high achieving. And so I find that, people who are smarter, I shouldn't say I find, the research shows people who are smarter tend to be better at kind of going through all of those worst case scenarios because we're problem solvers.
Yeah.
So like, well, let me just work through everything that could possibly go wrong here. And like, we kind of trick ourselves into thinking that we are like problem solving or, trying to think of everything that could possibly go wrong. But it does result in a lot of that kind of stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
So I also find that the people who are, high achieving perfectionists who really have the most reasons to be proud of themselves and to feel really confident about who they are also tend to be the ones who beat themselves up the most and tend to experience more of that like imposter syndrome or kind of self-doubt, have a lot more of that negative self-talk, which is just normal. It's just normal. Yeah. It's really kind of how we're wired. And that's, as kind of what I teach people is how to deal with, improve, work on the negative aspects of probably the best thing about you that, you really expect a lot of yourself and push yourself and are, driven. But the other side of that can kind of get in the way.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's funny, my daughters both do dance. So I'm like a dance mom. That's my
love it.
That's me.
Love it.
For years. So I'm all in that world.
What's funny though is that I find too, especially as women and as moms, we are caretakers, right? But also, as you've done it in your own life, like that perfectionism and things like that, like we see how kind of hard it can be on ourselves. And it tends to be much easier to justify, like our kids being better at it, right? Like I can say negative things about myself, right? Because that's going to push me and make me work harder. But I would never want my kids saying that to themselves or I would never say the things to my kids that I would say to myself. Yeah. And so sometimes when we kind of think of it through the perspective of our kids, I think it becomes much easier for us as women and moms to justify, working on it ourselves. But yeah, especially in the dance world, you're spending all day staring at yourself in the mirror.
Right. And perfecting
Yes.
every little thing, every turn,
Yes.
when it looks so. Yeah. No.
And comparing yourself
makes sense.
to the girl next to you.
Oh, yes, for sure. Okay. So for someone who's hearing this relentless solution focus for the first time, or RSF, as you kind of refer to it, what does it actually mean in simple terms?
Okay.
If we were to kind of break it down.
Okay, great question. So, relentless solution focus is essentially a way of training optimism. So, the definition of relentless solution focus is just very simply the mind's ability to stay focused on solutions and what you can control, especially in the face of adversity. Again, it's optimism, the mind's ability to stay focused on solutions, especially in the face of adversity. And, we all know probably that optimism is a good thing. We've heard about it. We know it's good to be optimistic, but we just really haven't been taught how to do it. And so relentless solution focus is a way of training your brain for optimism. And again, we know it's a good thing, but I think the research on optimism is just so compelling. And it has been very extensively researched that people with optimism significantly more successful, even when controlling for intelligence. They're happier, they're healthier, they have significantly less of a chance of getting almost every major disease. And here's the wild and crazy one that feels almost unbelievable, that people with optimism live on average up to 14 years longer than those who don't. With a relentless solution focus, live on average up to 14 years longer. And so it is. And that's been replicated, in a few different studies. And it all comes down to how what we focus on in our brains sends a signal to our body to release certain neurotransmitters. So when our brains are focused on a problem or all the things that we can't control in life, it sends the message from our brain to our body to release cortisol. Now, cortisol, we know about cortisol. It's trending right now, right? Everybody's talking about cortisol right now. But cortisol, in mild doses or in the right doses, it's good for our body systems and functions. But at even moderately higher doses, this stuff is like low dose poison coursing through our veins. And most of us are just simply walking around with way too much cortisol because we have this tendency to focus on problems or what we can't control. And it goes back to our evolution. It was important to our survival that we could very quickly recognize the threats. And so that, which kind of was important to our survival as a species, though, now that we live in a time where our environments are much more stable, we're not really worried about saber-toothed tigers anymore. That problem-centric thought is, again, causing us to underperform, experience way too much problem focus, and we just have this bias towards focusing on problems and what we can't control. And so essentially relentless solution focus teaches us how to recognize that and then replace it. Because when we replace that focus on problems, when we replace them with a focus instead on solutions or what we can control about a situation, then our brain sends a signal to release a whole other set of positive, mood-enhancing neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, all the good stuff. The good stuff that feels good and that we all want and helps us perform and helps our intelligence and our creativity and actually helps us solve the problems that we're worried about to begin with. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's kind of like why we need it and what it is.
Yeah. So it's that fight or flight, or I guess preventing that, right, from happening, or is it more like if you're triggered throughout the day, whatever it is at work or even I guess at the game or something with your kids, I see that.
Yes.
Something triggers you. How can you kind of like rein it in? Say, okay, I'm going to think this way. Or how does that work?
Okay, that's a really good question. So two things with that. One, you will get triggered, right? Like we know it's it's part of our DNA that we are going to focus on the problems. We are going to have that propensity to focus on problems or what we can't control first. So the first step is just to simply recognize when you're doing it. to recognize when your brain is focused on a problem or something that you can't control. And the 100% accurate kind of clue that you can use to determine whether you're focused on a problem or something that you can't control is your negative emotion. Whenever you're experiencing negative emotion, like fear, anger, sadness, guilt, worry, frustration, all of those are 100% guarantee that your brain's focused on a problem or something that you can't control. Because our bodies don't feel anything unless our brains tell it to.
It's the
And
brain. Yeah. It's your
yes,
thing, signaling, right?
exactly. And this is a really important step, though, because it actually is a little bit sneakier than we think. It's usually pretty easy to
Right. It comes out
determine.
of nowhere.
It does. And sometimes we can kind of, it's disguised as like just venting or like problem solving or trying to really like wrap our minds around the problem or kind of think about all the different like alternate scenarios. So it does become fairly difficult to self-assess. But when we bring it back to that negative emotion, when I'm experiencing negative emotion, that's 100% guarantee that I am living on the problem side of my brain and in need of that RSF. Okay, so now 2 things that we do in this situation. When that fight or flight response is triggered, right? We all know what that feels like. It feels like your heart pounding out of your chest.
Yeah.
You start to kind of feel like, if you're giving a presentation or something, you start to kind of feel like, wait, do I even know what I'm talking about? Right? It's like, I've done this. I've talked about this a million times. Like, do I even know, or when I don't know if you experience this as an actress. Like, wait, what are my lines? Right? When you could probably like do it in your sleep.
It's funny. That's funny that you say that because that's a fear of mine. Like just to be on set, like sometimes, you can blank a little bit, but you rein it in, right?
Yes.
My biggest fear, and I've seen it happen to very famous actors on set where they get in their head, it happens a couple of times. They can't remember their lines and they spiral. It is out of control.
Yes.
They will leave.
Yes.
It's like, and
yes.
that is it's never happened to me. Thank God.
Yeah.
It happens.
It does.
So
it does. And you know what?
It's similar.
It's
what you're saying
totally
about saying in the positive, positive thoughts and the positive, like, I got this, I can do it, that kind of thing. But
totally. And that was my biggest fear as a dancer too. It was always that. It's like, am I going to blank out? Am I going to blank out? Right. And you're right. Like sometimes it's funny how fast our brains work in that performing situation. It's like you said, like sometimes you will even blank for a split second, but then you rein it in and you're like, oh, thank God it worked. Right. And that's part of it too, when I'm doing speaking engagements, things like that. I think that's a fear that anyone can resonate with. That like when we're giving a presentation, like, am I going to forget everything I'm going to say? Or, when I'm playing soccer, am I going to like all of a sudden forget the fundamentals? But when we remind ourselves, okay, it's not going to be perfect. There's definitely going to be things from this that I'm going to want to work on improving. In fact, that's exactly what I tell myself when I'm going into a speech. I tell myself 2 things. I tell myself, 1, I am so prepared. And 2, there are going to be things from this that I'm going to want to work on improving afterwards. And it takes the pressure off it having to be perfect.
It does. Yeah.
Because I think we tend to like we tend to just hold our breaths and hope that it's perfect and like, oh my God, it's got to be perfect. But if we just take the pressure off by saying, listen, it's not going to be perfect, but it's still going to be great. And there's going to be things from this that I'm going to want to work on improving afterwards. Right. But okay, so going back to your point about how you've seen this play out, where maybe they do kind of blank and then all of a sudden they kind of panic and then that fight or flight response kicks in. What's happening is that all of our resources are going towards fighting that saber-toothed tiger in that moment and away from cognitive functioning. So we literally do become dumber in that moment where that fight or flight response kicks in because our body doesn't know that we're not running from the saber-toothed tiger. It does think it's a life or death situation when really it's just, remembering some lines. Another day. And so what we do, this is one of the tools that I teach in the book. It's called the centering breath. It's really simple. It's so easy to implement and it really helps people. So it's different than a normal deep breath, which we're all used to trying. We know like take a deep breath when you're feeling nervous.
Right.
But what the centering, exactly. What the centering breath does though, is it gets air into the diaphragm, which then has the physiological effect of slowing down the heart rate, which calms that fight or flight response. So that's a really good first step when you do feel yourself starting to you feel those negative effects of that problem focus, results focus, and that increase in heart rate. And all the centering breath is you just simply breathe in for 6 seconds, you hold your breath for 2 seconds, and you breathe out for 7 seconds. So 6, 2, 7. And that's it. It's so simple. But it's different than a normal deep breath where people just typically aren't breathing in enough or holding it enough or breathing out enough to really get that air to kind of sit in the diaphragm to slow down the heart rate.
Yeah.
So
and then you almost feel like you're hyperventilating sometimes.
Yes. Yes. And then sometimes when it's like, okay, I'm taking deep breaths, but it's not helping. Right. And then we almost start to panic more. So sit in for 6, hold for 2, out for 7. Really simple, really impactful. I did this before every single performance of my life, whether it was on stage or like giving a speech. So that's what you can do, really quickly to kind of calm down that fight or flight response. But let's talk about kind of the second part of that, which is how do we shift our focus? Right? When we do catch ourselves focused on a problem or what we can't control or the results, what do we do about it? Because we can't just tell ourselves not to think about it. Like you can't just tell yourself, just don't worry about if I blank. I'm just not going, just don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Yeah. Or like, don't think about that, all that's riding on this performance or that the whole team's counting on me to make these free throws. Right? Or don't think about like that. I experience this all the time as a dancer. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And how hard is it to get your brain off that mistake while you're still trying to execute the rest of your performance?
Yeah.
So we need a way to get our brains off the stuff that they're going to want to navigate to or gravitate to. Right. And we can't just tell ourselves not to think about it. It's like me telling you, okay, just don't think about a pink elephant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Right. It just doesn't work. So what we have to use instead is something called thought replacement, where instead of telling ourselves not to think about it, we replace it with something else. Okay. And so let me teach another tool that's in the book. This is called the Relentless Solution Focus tool. And it's really simple and everybody can start implementing this immediately. Okay. And the RSF tool comes in the form of a question. The question is, what's one thing I can do that could help make this better? What's one thing I can do that could help make this better? And that's it. It is so simple, but it's forcing our brains to think about a potential solution or improvement to the problem instead of staying wrapped up and spiraling in all the possible negative outcomes of that problem. It just gets our brain off the problem and onto solutions.
I got it.
What's one thing I can do that could help make this better?
Yeah. I like that. I tell that to my kids sometimes, or I usually just tell them, have fun with it. If they're having fun, then they get off of that, like, oh God, this is good. I'm like, no. It's good.
Yes.
Have fun.
You're so right. And when I talk to my athletes about that a lot because, the secret is that we all know is that if you're having fun, you're going to perform better.
Right.
Because people come to me because they want to perform better, like their parents or, if it's a younger one, like they're paying me to help their kids perform better. Same thing in business. Like people pay me to help them perform better. And so, the having fun, of course, is like a really important piece of that. But, I tell them, listen, I want you to focus on having fun because A, it feels better, but B, it's going to make you perform better. But one of the ways to help drive our brain to get there, our brain to get there is to keep our focus on improvement and the process instead of the results.
I see. Okay.
So let me just kind of say one more thing about that RSF tool question, because I think this is a really important part to kind of understand the science behind it, that the power of that tool comes with the fact that it is a question. Because what happens in our brain when we're asked a question is that our brain can't help but turn everything else off except for thinking about the answer to that question. It's called instinctive elaboration, where when we're asked a question, we just can't help but kind of quiet everything else and focus on the answer to that question. And then not only that, we also become more motivated to act on whatever the answer to that question is, which is really powerful. So not only do we need to get our brains to think about a solution, but we need to get it to quiet down all the reasons why we think that solution won't work.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it's a question really taps into that aspect of our brain, that instinctive elaboration. And so, there's really not a situation that RSF tool question doesn't apply to.
I love that.
One thing I can do that could help make this better.
I love it. I'm going to try that one. Definitely when that creeps in, hopefully not for a while, but when it's,
Yeah, I know.
we're going to keep that up there. So I love that you talk about the Olympic athletes that you work with and the students, and what struggles, I guess, are the same for them. And I guess if they're going into like, a big game or something, what do you have them do? Because I know sometimes you can kind of visualize, okay,
Yes.
you visualize it going well. I do that sometimes.
Awesome.
But, before going in, but at the same time, I try and be flexible. Like you want to say, okay, things could change. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what you teach and if it's something like that or.
Yes. Okay. That's a great question. And it's so interesting. And people ask me this a lot, like knowing that I work with, Olympic athletes, professional athletes, or even just, people who are very successful in the business world.
Yeah.
Like, what are they like? What's different about them?
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is that they are just like us. We kind of think of these people who are among the best in the world at what they do as being like aliens, like they just have something that we don't. And I will tell you the difference. The thing that they have that I feel like other people don't, it's not that they don't have self-doubt or negative self-talk. They just don't make it part of their identity.
Yes. I love it. I love that. No, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. We all have it. We all have self-doubt. Like you were saying, what do you do when it's triggered? Like it will be triggered, right?
Just happen.
Being optimistic, being solution focused doesn't mean that you're not going to catch yourself focusing on the negative. But what most people do is they make a mistake and they say, "Oh, there I go again."
We freak out.
There I go again, finding a way to screw this up. Or, yep, there I fell off. I'm trying to start working out and I missed a workout. There I go again, like falling off track. They make it part of their identity.
Yeah.
And the people who, again, are the best among the best in the world at what they do, they fall off track too.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard for them too. They're not motivated they don't want to get up early for their workouts either.
Right.
But when they do fall off track, instead of saying to themselves, there I go again, they say to themselves, that's not like me. What do I need to do to get back on track?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a huge difference. Like, there I go again. That's not like me.
Yeah. Was that a personality trait? Sorry for interrupting. Is that a personality?
No, that's okay.
Or is that something that you learn? Because I feel like I've gotten better with this over time.
Yes.
And I feel like I've trained.
Okay. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm curious.
Because it's just like anything else. We're all born with different levels of it, like any other skill. But that's the whole premise of Relentless Solution Focus, is that anyone can develop this. And like, to your point, you have gotten so much better at it and because you've worked on it, right? Like when we work on anything, it will improve. And that's exactly what, Relentless Solution Focus, the book, teaches people how to do, is exactly how to work on it. My people come to me, they're already successful usually, whatever that means to them, whether it's like a 10-year-old little gymnast, they're, that maybe all of a sudden develops a fear of tumbling. Right. They're already really good or already pretty successful. Same thing, when you come to me as like a professional or, wherever you are in the business world, they're already doing a lot of awesome things. But there's just always things that, again, it's the other side of that high achievement that tends to kind of start rearing its head more and more the more successful we become.
Yeah.
But we work on it like anything else. Like one of my athletes, it's an Olympic qualifying year. She's a mogul skier, and it's a big year. Yeah. And, like for any Olympian, this is a big year. Yeah. And it is so easy to be focused on results this year.
Yes.
And that results focus, tackling that results focus, is something that we talk about almost every time we meet. We've talked about it I've been working with her for 6 years. We've talked about it for 6 years. it's not something that you tackle, right? It's not like, okay, good, check, I'm done with that. Like we work on it and we work on fighting it constantly. And it's sneaky, like she's dealing with a knee injury right now. And so, it's kind of starting to rear its head and like, well, what if my knee pain gets worse and what, right? Like she is one of the best. She is one of the most mentally tough people I know. And she works at it every day. So to answer your question, like it is, people have different levels of it, but it's something that we can all work on and we can all get great at.
I love that. I always love hearing about it because, I can't imagine the pressure that they go through because they don't get another shot, right? I mean, they might like one, but it's pretty like you're a certain age and your skill.
Yes.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one belief about success that you've completely changed your mind about? So you used to feel a certain way and now you're like, well, maybe it's a little bit more like this.
Okay. That's a great question. Nobody's asked me that question before. So I think that just over the course of my career and working with these people, that it's people who are highly successful feel highly successful.
Okay.
That they feel super confident. Because I find that, and I don't mean this in a negative way necessarily, but again, I do find that oftentimes the people that have the most reasons to feel so confident and proud of themselves tend to be the hardest on themselves. And that's quite frankly one of the biggest things that I work on with, when somebody comes to me, after already having achieved a high level of success, is that, that self-image, that self-confidence.
Yeah.
Because what happens as we get into the higher and higher levels of success is that we just join the ranks of everybody else at that level. Right. And so like that Olympic athlete is on a team with other Olympic athletes.
Yes.
Like that like big time leader at a big time firm is on the same level with all the other big time leaders in the big time firm, and comparing themselves to that. Or comparing ourselves to, the next level that we want to achieve. It never ends. It never ends.
Years. And you have to be I have the gratitude for where you are. I feel like that's something I'm being more intentional about now.
Yes.
It's just
gratitude is so important.
Yeah. Just being happy. Like, okay, I feel like I've gotten where I am, but then it's like, what's next?
That's I know. And that is so like that what's next. And this is what's so interesting is that what's next is so awesome. Like the fact that you have that what's next-ness about you, right? Like that has so much to do with your success to this point.
Okay.
But it is like that double-edged thing. Like I find time and time again that the thing that is typically our greatest strength as an individual is also the thing that we just kind of need to pay attention to in other areas, right? And so because, that what's next is, and that's, I think a lot of us relate to that, and especially high achievers, right? Like always thinking about what's next.
What's next?
That also means that we have a tendency to be really quick to brush off what we did well. So we're like, well, but what's next?
What's next?
Right?
Yeah.
Or what we've accomplished. And that, here's the thing that's important to remember about this is that which we focus on expands. So this is a whole chapter in the book. It's about something called expectancy theory, which basically states that which you focus on expands. So, and remember, we have a tendency to focus on problems or what we can't control.
Yeah.
So the more we focus on problems, the bigger our problems become. It's like expectancy theory is kind of like, well, it's like the algorithm, right? Yeah. Like on social media, whatever you watch, you'll tend to be shown more content similar to that. And then it kind of expands your interests and so forth and so on. So with high achievers, remember, we already have a tendency to focus on problems.
Yeah.
But the double whammy is that we also have a tendency to be really quick to brush off our done wells and what we're doing well, what we should be grateful for, what we should be proud of ourselves for.
Yeah.
So we're not allowing that expectancy theory to work for us.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's funny. I just recorded, or I think I just put it up recently on the podcast about instead of in that go mentality, it's just kind of like being for a while. And I've done I've done a lot of interviews this year, and it's been different because people are like, well, what's next? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm just kind of wallowing in this
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
And
Which
they're
is
like,
awesome.
okay. So it's like I've had things on the back burner, or like ideas
Yeah.
kind of there and floating around, and I'll think about, or I'm starting to plan them out for next year. But it's interesting how it like goes in seasons, It's
It
like,
does.
yeah.
Well, and that gratitude, I love that you brought that up because gratitude is so important. And there's great research surrounding gratitude.
Yeah.
That gratitude increases optimism, right? And we
Uh-huh.
started this podcast talking about how important optimism is.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's 14 years longer. We live 14 years longer with higher levels of
Wow.
optimism.
Amazing.
And in those 14 years, we're healthier, happier, more successful, have better friendships, we sleep better. So
Love
in my mind, I think it's hard to argue that there's anything more important to work on as a skill than optimism.
Yeah.
And so back to gratitude though, gratitude has been shown to increase optimism. And so just getting in the habit of, starting your day with, well, what's one thing I'm grateful for? Or, when you do start to experience higher levels of stress and anxiety, kind of saying, well, hold on, what am I grateful for today? It allows us to kind of ground ourselves into the moment.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's helpful for sure to remember to do those things.
Yes.
What do you do, or what's your personal reset button? I know you've talked. I'm sure you do a lot of these things yourself, but is there something like a morning routine or?
Okay, so there's two things.
Yeah.
There's two things. So one is called the success log. And we teach this in the book, and I'll teach you, let's see if I can kind of go through a couple of the questions on it quickly, because it's really simple. And actually, let me just teach you the first question, because I think if people started implementing this first question, the results would be impactful. So it starts with just, hey, what 3 things did you do well in the last 24 hours? So forcing yourself to identify and write down 3 things you did well in the last 24 hours. Remember, we were just talking about we're so quick to move on. Yeah, I did that well, but what's next?
Yeah.
Or, we get the feedback from like a presentation. We don't even hear the good stuff because we're just waiting for the negative comment, right? I catch myself with, like, as a mom, when I get my kids' report cards, I catch myself all the time. It's like I skip all the good numbers and I'm like scanning for the bad ones. Right. And so by asking ourselves and forcing ourselves to identify what 3 things did I do well in the last 24 hours, we're literally turning on and strengthening that part of our brain that recognizes the good stuff. That again, like that part of our brain doesn't like to turn on its own.
Yeah.
And so forcing yourself to do it every day is strengthening that connection. So that's one piece of the success log tool that I do every day. There's a couple other questions in there that are really simple. It goes into identifying one thing you want to work on improving, an action step to help make that improvement. Again, we're just rewiring our brain to focus on improvement and solutions instead of perfection and problems.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
So that's piece 1, success log. Piece 2 is something called the mental workout. And we teach this in the book too. Yes. We teach this in the book too. Every single one of my clients does both of these things, the success log and the mental workout. And actually, you already know the first tool of the mental workout, which is the centering breath.
Oh, yes. Okay.
The centering breath. You practice that tool every day, in for 6, hold for 2, out for 7 in the mental workout. So again, you're training your body how to calm itself down in response to pressure or performance. And then going on in that mental workout, we include things in there like positive self-talk, something called the identity statement, which is sort of like a personal mantra that reminds you of what you have that makes you great and what is great about your life and like what you're grateful for and all those positive things that we like to forget or not pay attention to.
Yeah.
You say it to yourself every day in the mental workout. And then visualization. So there's a set visualization where we visualize ourselves in that kind of ideal life that we want to be, the person we want to be 3 to 5 years from now in the long term. But then we visualize, well, what do I need to be executing today in the next 24 hours that's going to get me there?
Yes, I love that. So important.
So the mental workout takes about a minute. We walk you through exactly how to develop that in the book, but start by just implementing that centering breath and implementing those 3 done wells. Because, even when you read the book And we try to do a good job of emphasizing this. We say, like, we don't want you to implement all of this at once.
Yeah.
We want you to start with, one chapter at a time, one tool at a time, because implementing one thing, getting consistent with it, and then implementing the next thing is really the fastest way to get there.
Okay. Just getting those new habits so you get used to
Exactly.
it again, right?
Exactly.
I love it. I'm so hooked. I can't wait to do more of this. Okay. I have one more question.
Awesome.
All right. So, coffee with Karina tradition. What's your go-to morning coffee ritual? What do you
Ooh.
order? What's your favorite thing? I've been asking.
Okay, I love it. So we have, what is it? It's right over there. It's an espresso.
Okay.
And it's 3 feet from my bed.
I
And yes. And it's so funny. I'm in my bedroom right now. I work from my bedroom. We have an office, so I'm all virtual. My clients are all over the world.
Okay.
And so we have an office. In fact, we have 2 offices downstairs, but I have a desk right at the end of my bed. I just like to be in my bedroom. I can lock the door, which theoretically I could lock the door in my office. But anyway, so our bedroom is like, it's like a hotel suite. We have, the first thing we did when we moved into this house is we set up a coffee bar over there. So
I need
so
that.
I walk,
do this.
yes, I walk 3 feet over to the Nespresso, and I do half calf, and I put a little sprinkle of pumpkin in it, and then I put in the collagen.
Oh yes, the collagen's so good.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you whisk it in? You like whisk it, or do you?
Just with a spoon.
Yeah.
It's just like the I can't remember what the brand is, but it's the powder and then almond milk. So I am pretty particular. I'm pretty particular about my coffee. That's a great question.
They're all so different. What everybody wants.
I know.
I love it.
I know. And it's like first thing I do. There was some talk and research about you should wait a little bit before you drink your coffee.
Oh, no.
I'm like, nope. It's the first thing I do, and then I get right back into bed with some coffee.
Me too, a lot of times. Just to clear, I'm like, okay, I'm awake now. I can do this.
Yep.
That's funny. We are so similar in that way. So with the office situation, at my other place, I've recorded most of the podcast in my closet. It's a big closet, right?
Yeah.
The sound is so good.
Yes.
And it's my happy place, and it's my quiet place. And I have a good lock on there. My kids cannot.
Yep.
Yep. It's just like, I don't know. It's my creative space, and it's
I love that.
So this is more of like an office, but yeah,
I love that.
I'm going to start working from there more, I think, because it's so
fun.
Why
not? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Nowadays, I love design and, house stuff. And, now with just like laptops and iPads and, like the office or traditional office where you have the big desk with all the files and like the big, huge computer monitor, it's just times have changed. And so now I just love to have little spots throughout my house where I can kind of plop down and do what I need to do without feeling like I'm like in a dungeon.
Yeah. And it's comfortable. It's like,
yes.
That's that's amazing. I love it.
Yes.
Well, this was amazing. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Me too.
Really helpful to me. And I am hooked. I'm not just saying that. I'm going to.
Awesome. Well, I'm working on the next one right now. That's my, I've been working on it for the past, 2-3 years. But, I'll work on it and then put it away to work on another project. But I'm committed. I'm finishing this thing. And so I'm really excited about that. Really, it's kind of obviously like the tools and principles of Relentless Solution Focus, but really geared towards that perfectionist high achiever. I found through my Instagram account, which is probably how we found each other, that there's just so many us's out there. We need just like we need a therapy group. Yes, the A+ students who are like really crushing it on paper, and then there's just some like those questions of like, am I enjoying this enough? Like, am I fulfilled? Like, why do I still feel this self-doubt when I should be so confident? And, that imposter syndrome and just all the things that also come along with high achievement, but it's often disguised by the fact that things are great on paper. We're really successful. And so, I find that people are already doing a lot of things incredibly well. There's just certain things that the research can inform us as to how to improve, to live better lives. And it's really that simple.
Yeah, just those little tweaks. All right. Well, this is the book again. I'm going to show it on here and we'll link it too.
Oh, great.
In the bottom there. So yeah, thanks again. And
thank you. Awesome talking to you.
Your next book.
Awesome.
Hey, this is Karina. Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you hear, check out some of our other episodes and give us a rating. In the meantime, stay safe, and we hope to see you back here soon.